This is the head of, law enforcement in Canada saying that he's going to post bail for someone if they break the law.
Do we have another election coming? Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, that is the topic we've got here. This topic organically gets brought up on CBC, and it's an important one to have because the way Mark Carney's rolling things out, it's quite possible. Jumping into the middle of this panel here, they start talking about Mark Carney, his actions, and his budget.
Following the recession in 2009, we knew then that we needed to move on from a dependence on the United States. We didn't. Chrystia Freeland talked about this during the first term of Donald Trump, and then the pandemic hit. So there are some things there that they have to do. And also, you've got a guy as prime minister that this is his brand. He's going to be able to point to what he's inherited. He's going to be able to point to what Trump is doing.
Right.
But he's going to have some projections that are showing that this is why he was brought in.
Who is going to support Mark Carney's budget? That is the key question. And Carney came out at the beginning. He was asked if he would do a deal with the NDP, and he says, no, he doesn't need the NDP. So it's possible that they planned this from all along, that if they didn't get a majority, they would keep fear-mongering Donald Trump and then have another election. As we've seen here, and keep this in the back of your mind, they're rolling out the Pew Pew buyback program, trying to grab 4 more seats from Cpac. Maybe that's all they're trying to do. The only thing here, which we'll get to later on, is the monkey wrench that was tossed in here of Gary Anasandri caught on audio saying he doesn't believe in the Pew Pew buyback program, saying he would pay his tenant the difference if he didn't get full money back from his Pew Pew, all this stuff. This might cost Carney seats. And the question is, what does Carney do now? Because he needs someone to support his budget.
Right. I mean, but Fred, this is a tough picture, right? I know COVID, the debt doubled during COVID, and you can argue over that, but that was a black swan event. I know what Trump is doing is also a black swan event, but the direction of this with the ambition of the Carney agenda, there's a collision here, and something will have to give at a certain point.
And the politics of it, we have a budget in a few weeks. Who's voting for it? It's a minority parliament. We have
the Liberal Conservative coalition. Is that not what's going to happen
with
there, Fred?
Massive deficits. Right? I don't think we see Conservatives in any way ever supporting this, or the other way another party could try to get through this is abstaining and not voting. You just need one party to do that out of the 3 opposition parties. I don't see in any way the Conservatives can do anything but vote against this budget. So the Bloc Québécois, you can never trust them. I've a history myself with them. You never know what they're going to do, and I believe
the Bloc already came out and said they're not going to support Carney. If one party does abstain, then essentially there's less votes than Carney would be able to get his budget through. It's one way to not vote for it, but then also not support it. But it does support it if, say, the NDP abstain.
Machet said a week or two ago he's not going to vote for the budget. So it leaves the NDP. If this is an austerity budget, if there's going to be all these massive cuts, can they vote for this budget? I'm not predicting the government is going to fall in a few weeks, but I just don't know the politics of this. Who is going to vote for this budget out of the 3 opposition parties?
Well, I think the NDP, too, they've had a whole bunch of their supporters come out and join with Palestinian protesters, and that's when they surrounded Carney's office and were banging the drums and pushing the police right against the wall. The primary message of that one protest, just like a couple days ago, half a week ago, was the austerity budget. Are the NDP really going to go back in and tie themselves, hitch their wagon to the Liberals again after Jagmeet Singh destroyed the party? I don't think so. They may abstain. That may be what happens here, but I can't see them wanting to tie themselves again to the Liberals. They have to detach themselves. Conservatives are not going to do it. The Conservatives will look weak if they vote for Carney's budget. They've already projected it to be $68 billion, some saying $100 billion. Conservatives can't vote for that.
Look, we'll book you now for the election specials that we're going to be doing, because it sounds like, but it is an interesting point because, and there's no Jagmeet Singh and no supply and confidence agreement. I remember Mark Carney, at his first press conference after the election, he was asked, will you seek a governing arrangement with the NDP? He said no. And the follow-up was, why not? And he said, why? Right? So that tells us about an intention to govern as if there's a majority and advance the agenda. So how do you think this plays out in Parliament?
Well, I think that I can't see any way that the NDP would vote for an austerity budget, and that's the kind of budget that we're looking at.
Could they abstain?
I don't know what they would do, but I know one of the things that I'm hearing a lot is that because the NDP is so weak, they won't want an election. But my kind of take on that is, what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Like when things are this dire and things
7 seats, maybe. I don't know.
I think you could make the argument that
you could get party status.
That the 7 MPs that won under the circumstances of the last election are pretty good, and we can see that, right?
Yep.
And I think if an election was held next week, we would have more seats.
I think she's bang on here. You're not going to lose more seats as NDP with Jagmeet Singh tanking the party. Now that Jagmeet's gone, some people will come back and like, okay, that buffoon is gone. We can vote NDP again, especially since Mark Carney and austerity budget. They would probably get 12 or 13 or 14 seats right now if there was an election. So they have only to gain by not hitching their wagon once again to the Liberal horse. The Conservatives not going to support that either. So is it going to be the Bloc?
They also have this position where they need to break away from that Trudeau-Jagmeet Singh deal that was there for so long. They have to stand up and show that they are different than the Liberal Party. So abstaining or voting with them doesn't do that.
And the Carney government is very different from the Trudeau government. Very different, right? This is a very, we've said many times, a very conservative-leaning government. So why would the NDP feel inclined to support it?
So, Greg, what do you do if you're the Liberals? You have to deal with these numbers eventually, right? You could go through COVID and deal with things, but there were structural deficits going into the pandemic, and they remain there coming out of the pandemic. And a lot of it is redistribution of tax money to Canadians. And I'm not judging those programs, but they're not the sort of spending to create growth that Mark Carney wants to do. So what do you do in terms of seeking a partner, or do you just implement your plan and let the chips fall?
Notwithstanding Fred's lack of trust for the BQ, I think the challenge, what I would try to be doing from a communications point of view is, do the Bloc want to support Pierre Poilievre, who is not all that popular in Quebec? Conservatives are not all that popular right now, and enforce an election if they support them? Or do they want to continue going on? That would be one angle. I have heard some conversations about folks from the Conservatives talking to people about, you should abstain on this. It may end up that the Conservatives may have to have a case of the blue flu. Some of them won't be there.
Yeah. But I really hope that as a Conservative, the party doesn't take that position, because I think that's voting for the budget if you do that.
They seem energized.
Way too cute.
Yeah. Like they seem to have an energy with Pierre Poilievre back, right? Like an abstention, they'll get called out on that. That will be a narrative.
You're supporting the budget if you keep
You're giving them a pass.
The other challenge, though, as Fred spoke a couple of weeks ago, is Poilievre trying to grow his support with Canadians, or is he focused on the leadership review? There was a poll this summer, I think it was Ipsos, has said that 68% of Conservatives were happy with Poilievre. Well, that's the same number that Merritt Stiles got, and it's not been, CBC describes
but that won't be the numbers that go to a delegated convention.
I absolutely, but they're the numbers I have right now.
No, I understand.
And that's the thing that I'd be watching.
But your argument on the Bloc, like I don't know what the seat by seat dynamic looks like right now in Quebec, but if you're Mr. Blanchet, a weakened minority government of any stripe and a stronger Bloc Québécois is a better position for him, is it not? If the budget is something that's
and define strength. So if you have a meeting with the Prime Minister and you get some concessions from the budget, and you're able to say that as the Bloc leader, that may be strength.
Right. So, Anne, how do you see that?
The Bloc, they might be able to pull off some dirty deal here where they get something for themselves, because the Bloc only serves Quebec. They don't care about the rest of Canada, so you have to frame it like that. So if Carney says, hey, we'll give you this, that, or the other, maybe somehow tying themselves to the buyback program if it's a success or whatever, could be something else. But Blanchet said he's not going to support them. Is he going to flip-flop on his own words is the question here. The NDP have nothing to gain by supporting Carney, neither do the Conservatives. So something's going to happen here. Either there's another election, the government falls, or someone flips, someone abstains. One thing that seems very likely is that Mark Carney knew this would happen. This was a possibility when he got elected, that they wouldn't get a majority, and they planned for it because he kept all these Liberals on. He didn't kick anyone else out when he became Liberal leader. They had the election. He got the minority win. He immediately called Pierre Poilievre's by-election. No games, no funny business. Why? Because he's bringing in all his buddies now, right? We've already seen 2 of them go out to be ambassadors. There's more of them on the way. There's more rumors coming down that more of them are getting kicked out, and he's going to bring in more of his buddies. He wants all of his buddies for net zero to come in as different ministers, and he needs a bunch of by-elections. But maybe he won't need those by-elections if he just goes to another election. That's the key here. So it seems like they've had plan A and plan B. Plan A, if they would just do by-elections to get his buddies in. Plan B, they have another election, he gets his buddies in. Because Carney wants right-hand men, people he worked with, Goldman Sachs, all these kind of banker buddies that will roll out his net zero agenda, and they'll all profit handsomely off of it.
Bloc leader, when he negotiates, at least what we saw in the last parliament, it's kind of out of of this world, right? Like some of the things that he asked for last time he was in this position were a little bit out of control, right? So, I mean, I think you also have to be able to negotiate. You do have to get, if you're going to have an opposition party that supports the budget or abstains or whatever it is that they end up doing, they would have to get something for it.
Right, but just on that, in the last Parliament, Justin Trudeau's numbers, I mean, the Liberal Party was bleeding out on the floor, and the Conservatives had just spent millions of dollars attacking Jagmeet Singh. So the relative strength of everybody, you know, in the fall of 2024 is very different than where we are right now, right? So, like, can we draw a lesson from that, do you think, or is it just too different?
I think it's a different situation now. I mean, I think that, you know, we did get through an election, and Trump was a big factor, and Trump is still a big factor. I know everybody is sort of saying that he is still a very big factor on.
I mean, that's an important point too. Where's Mark Carney? He's off in Europe talking to Iceland and UK and all these other countries that don't matter, really. We do $1 trillion of trade with America, our biggest trading partner, 80%. Where's Carney? He should be down in America, but he needs the boogeyman to get reelected, so he's not touching that. And it even came out when Blanchette went down to America, found out that Carney's team had been pissing off America, the administration down there. He's not negotiating. He doesn't even care. It's part of his plan. The problem we have, this truth is not really getting out much on mainstream media. I mean, Blanchette said that in the House of Commons, so that got out a bit. But I mean, they're not really talking about that on CBC or CTV because that hurts Mark Carney's image.
On Canadians' minds. And I also believe, as we were talking about earlier, that there is an imbalance in labor and like employers and employees at the moment. And so I think an austerity budget where it is workers that primarily pay the price and Canadians who pay the price because of the decline in services is going to be a big problem.
Well, on that labor issue, we saw people like Lana Payne from Unifor side by side with Mark Carney, places like Kitchener during the election. I don't know if you're going to see that now after what has happened on some of the labor front, even if there is alignment on the auto stuff. Fred, I'm going to give you the last word. I mean, do you think they find a partner, or do you think they just lay down the budget and go?
It's interesting because Carney on election night didn't seem interested at all in looking for a partner, so I don't know what his approach will be. I do not think we'll have an election, so somehow we're going to avoid that. I just don't know the mechanics and who's going to be the one to fold.
To fold or compromise or pull together and for national unity. I mean, anything is possible.
I just don't see the incentive. I don't see the incentive.
Well, we haven't seen the budget, so we don't know yet, right? I mean, there could be things. And I mean, well, November 4th, we will find out, and then maybe we'll have a sense of where it's going to go. But I expect a lot of posturing between now and then. Greg McEachern.
It comes down to it. The NDP have no incentive to support Carney. Neither do the Conservatives. So are the Bloc the ones to be flipped? Even though Blanchette said they're not supporting them either. I guess we'll know more once we see the budget. But this is not the only factor. We've also got Mark Carney getting nailed on that whole Gary Anasandri Pew Pew buyback program. This is bad metrics for him. They weren't anticipating this. I bet they were planning if they got majority, they would just do the Pew Pew buyback program, flip a few seats in Quebec, have another election, get a majority. And now, while they might still get those few seats in Quebec, they'll be losing seats other places where it's clear that you got another Liberal minister caught lying, doesn't believe in his own program, makes Carney look like a swindler, trying to do damage control, clean up the mess. So do they lose a few seats in other places? So now what are they going to do? They have to do something else to flip a few more seats? Their plan is backfired. Now it's getting interesting because they have to do another play here. And maybe Mark Carney figured that out when he flew over to Europe to watch a rugby game and then fly all the way back on the gas-guzzling jet.
In a private conversation, this minister said the exact opposite thing. He called the Liberal gun buyback a politically motivated scam. Now imagine what could be done with this $750 million. How many police officers could be hired? How many border officers could be hired? How many scanners could be purchased to find the illegal guns coming in from the United States? And yet he's doing nothing. He's pushing forward with his politically motivated scam. Canadians deserve better. They deserve to be safe. This is staggering incompetence. Why won't the Prime Minister fire him?
Your staggering incompetence is when you think that AR-15s can be used for...
He's looking for the name of it because he doesn't even know. This guy is staggering incompetence.
Hunting and for farming, Mr. Speaker.
I'm not sure what I'm talking about because I don't even know what NARPAL is. This guy is a complete joke. Public safety minister, yet he's on the Rolodex of the Tamil Tigers.
Why do you think in this instance, at this moment, the Prime Minister is sticking by this minister?
Probably for two reasons. First of all, I think what happened was embarrassing. But we've all done and said embarrassing things. And I think the Prime Minister is showing a bit of mercy. I mean, if I had $1 for every stupid thing I've said, I could buy half of Corey's wardrobe. So I think there's a bit of human consideration there coming from the Prime Minister. I'd like to imagine that part of it is also an acknowledgement on the part of the Prime Minister that he hasn't made his public safety minister's job any easier. I mean, I continue to be puzzled by why they would lead on this issue of crime with the buyback program rather than on bail reform. And I say that because there are friends and critics of the buyback program, but it is definitively not seen as a frontline crime combating measure in the same way that bail reform and other get tough on criminals sort of measures that the government are promising is seen by the public. So I think perhaps the Prime Minister recognizes that he put his minister at a slight disadvantage in terms of the file. But look, you make a mistake like that, you have to play error-free ball from now on. Otherwise, the coach is going to yank you.
Corey, what do you think?
Well, it's not his first mess up. This guy's had several, and lapses of judgment, questions about writing letters of support for Tamil Tigers, etc. But this one is really pretty unconscionable, and I think it left out in the lead in one of the more bad things, like saying that I'll bail you out, and if there's a gap in between the value of your firearms that are bought back
I'll compensate
and what you paid for them, I'll compensate you. Like this is the head of law enforcement in Canada saying that he's going to post bail for someone if they break the law, and that he will, that compensation is unjust, and that he will personally fill the gap. Like, can we think back to the Nigel Wright affair, where he paid back expenses for Mike Duffy, and what a kerfuffle that was? Like, it haunted the government for months and months. I don't see.
Yeah, so I mean, Gary Anasandri admitting basically by saying that to his tenant that the Pew Pew buyback program isn't going to be fair compensation, which is why he was willing to compensate his tenant, but blasted across the internet. Now it's admitting that the program isn't going to be fair to Canadians, and the whole voluntary thing needs to be dropped. Like, that should be against the law to say that, because it is not. It's a mandatory program where you have to comply or you get arrested.
Yeah, huge material difference.
Somebody did in terms.
Well, okay, but you're supposed to be. This is a judicial law enforcement position in cabinet. You're the guy who's supposed to not make mistakes on stuff like that. So I think it's worse than just embarrassing. I think this guy is a disaster, and I don't think he's going to be spared. I think there's a shuffle coming because of Freeland departing, and perhaps others will be departing too. I think there'll be a shuffle, and I'm gonna lay it on the line right now. I don't think this guy is going to be in this role in cabinet, if he's in cabinet at all, at the end of that.
Yeah,
I agree with Corey. I think at some point here, Gary is going to be tossed out the door. Carney's probably just waiting for his moment to replace him with one of his buddies, because it's easier to do that later on than try to do that now. What is he going to kick him out and then have another by-election? Then nobody in that position. He's going to split that role with somebody else or put someone else in there right now. Because he puts someone else in there right now, someone he doesn't really want in there, then that doesn't look good too, because then he'll be changing that position over again. He'd rather get one of his banker buddies in there later on, whether that's through a by-election or through an election.
I'm inclined to think that, particularly given the significance of the portfolio, like to Corey's point, like it's one thing to say something, in a different job. Like Minister of Public Safety is nothing, particularly when, from a political perspective, crime is such a big deal right now in the House of Commons and outside.
Yeah, I mean, cue the cabinet shuffle speculation if it hadn't already started already. But what happened this week, when you look at how Prime Minister Carney responded to the news break, is he did a couple of things. He let his minister go out there. He said, okay, show him, answer the questions, do the hard interviews, perform in question period. And to his credit, the public safety minister took a lot of hard questions this week. Will he survive in the long run? I'm not sure. But remember, Carney also had to make another reflection when the news broke about the public safety minister. This is a campaign promise that the Liberals ran on. And a large part of their voter coalition, women, really want gun safety. In fact, the majority of Canadians don't want military-style, assault-style weapons that essentially are designed to kill as many people as fast as they can on our streets. And so this buyback program is a part of that promise that the Liberals made. And so I think that Carney Carney felt that tension, not only to his voter coalition, those people who brought him this policy he ran on, and then he's testing out the public safety minister. Can he survive, and how long, and also there's a strategic reason to defend this minister right now. When a minister falls, it's like blood in the water for sharks, right? The opposition is working as hard as they can to take down this public safety minister, but trust me, they'll just go after another minister after that. So
well, that might be true. He might be testing him right now, and that's why he's not getting rid of him right now, because he'd rather just replace him with one of his banker buddies during a by-election or an election. By having this guy stick around, it reflects badly on Carney as well. So Gary will be on a short leash until he either makes another mistake or Carney has an opportunity to replace him.